boy Severe, coming back at you again. Just want to take a minute to thank all my fans, my friends, my supporters, my family. Realize this is a battle of good versus evil. They want to silence the truth. I'm not gonna let them. You know why? Rygirl Ry. Thanks for checking out the track. I was signed to a record deal 7 years back. Keep off in the court because the Patriot was black. I promise every word you hear me say it's a fact. I was signed off the field. I really had a record deal. Tore the contract. This is when their plan was revealed. It's like if a god threw a horse and satanic. This all wasn't down. It's when they all had a panic attack. They know I view the world of panoramic. In fact, to the action, they have a symptomatic of the industry. At the time, they said I couldn't go. I already signed the paper, so they thought that I was young. Before they could told me it was part of their design. I say, yeah, what's a pedophile line of what I started? They didn't want no problems after that. Now they got one because I'm executing my attack. Rygirl Ry, come join the coalition. I awaken your minds and make your own decision. Break misconceptions, I'm a foe to listen. I can do what you need because I know what you listen. Bring truth when I ride with my vocals. And talk across the map, going global with the vision. The golden visions when I show an exhibition. I'm throwing the position when I'm focusing my vision. Let's talk about the way that I'm planning. Tactics. Fuckers out scanning from the back and try to steal the heart of love. I got a plan to bring it back. I got a follow with the Patriots. That all fans rap action. Look what I create. It's called Rygirl music. That's my whole genre. That's how I use it. To break the light control techniques that they use. This is a culture war. Now the voice of the movement. My life on the line. If I got it to war. Your mind and I'll be damned if you lose it. Listen to the words I speak then. Form your own conclusion. Before we division to feeling tearing in the root. What they keep listening to is points in their minds. You better rap in the lyrical. Like it applies to their subliminal. Heritage to this knowledge and I'm giving it to Rygirl Ry. Come join the coalition. I awaken your minds and make your own decision. Break misconceptions. I'm a foe to listen. I can do what you see because I know what you listen. Bring truth when I ride with my vocals. And talk across the map. Going global with the vision. The golden visions when I show an exhibition. I'm throwing the position when I'm focusing my vision. I'm like more. My purpose is to be defined also me. On the one, something with design. Yeah. It's a whole way to find true freedom from the shackles they use to define us from my own destiny. So I feel on my grind, you are protecting me. People running out of time, have no fear, never running out of rhymes. I can do this all day, it's like it's being defined. So I bring talk to light, let it shine, don't you fire white, giving vision to the blind. I refuse to conform to the world, I'm a design, I'm a think the thing about what's also in the climb. It's a paradox, watch it's a paradigm. Got my own shot, speaking of the watch, that's a lie. Yeah, try to warn me not to take this stuff, that's a lie, but I've never been the type to give a damn about the time. Rygirl Ry, come join the coalition. I awaken your mind to make your own decision. Break misconceptions, I'm a foe to listen. I can do what you need because I know what it is to bring truth when I ride with my vocals. And talk across the map, going global with the vision. The golden visions when I show an exhibition. I'm throwing the position when I'm focusing my vision.
Hey, Pete the Patriot. How are you? Oh, I better stop sharing my screen. Okay, so that was just a way of me kind of bringing in my intro, and I know that does not seem like maybe my style of music, and it's probably not. Well, it's not, but I do like, his name is Severe Anon. You can find him in YouTube or on YouTube under The Real Severe, and he is devoted to making music for the movement. And so he's got some pretty great music out there. He has collaborated with several guys out there as well. So, oh, hey, Joe. No notification went out, huh? I don't know why. It might be one of those things that takes a minute for it to go out. Sometimes they don't go out for a little while. So, If you guys, I'm good too, Pete. Thank you. I don't know if Pete, I don't know if you've been on my live streams before, but everyone else, I've mentioned him before, but check out his channel. He has a great channel. He is informative. He's laid back but passionate. And he can laugh at himself, which you guys know I love because I laugh at myself all the time. So I think it's important for us to be able to keep our sense of humor. And he's made me think a lot lately about some things. So I appreciate that, because even within, whether you want to call it our movement or whatever, there are differing opinions and differing ideas on how to approach topics or how to approach situations. And you know, I think it's important for us to be discussing those things and to be hearing. You're nuts, Pete. No, I wouldn't go that far. You're great. But I do appreciate, you know, being able to be pushed, not only by people who have completely different ideas than I do, you know, liberals or leftists, but also, hello, Jose, welcome. But also, you know, within my own realm of people and with people who I respect greatly. So, so I appreciate that. Always room to grow, to have an opportunity to logically think through some things, to see a different side, and to learn. So he's great for that. So go check him out. And he's on really regularly. I am horrible right now as far as setting a schedule so that you guys know what to expect. Pete the Patriot has this thing down. So he's great. All right. So what I was going to talk about today, well, what I will talk about today, is some things. Actually, Pete the Patriot, it's awesome that you're here, because I'm going to talk about something that's in California. And Pete is in California. So one of the things I wanted to address, I heard about on Jericho Green's channel. I don't know if you've heard of Jericho Green or not. I like him, though, full disclaimer, he curses like a sailor. Okay. So I'm bringing you my PG version. Okay. You are welcome, Pete. I'm bringing you my PG version. Just fair warning, if you do look him up, he's very informative. He always brings great information, but well, and he's funny, and he's kind of loose and stuff. But he's got a little bit of a mouth on him. So that's just your fair warning, my disclaimer there. And when I say a little bit of a mouth, I mean a lot of mouth. Okay, so one of the things that he talked about, though, today, he brought up some things that are happening in the California schools. Now, California and schools, you put those two words together and you kind of know that you're going to be discussing a disaster, right? Or you're going to get to the end of it and go, what in the world are they thinking? So let's do that again. I'm going to start by bringing up, by bringing up an, hang on, I can't speak and do it at the same time. Hey, Robert. Oh, cool. Thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to back up here a little bit and just kind of show you what I'm looking at. Whoops. This is the Department of Education, United States of America, California compilation of school discipline laws and regulations. And this was prepared back in April of 2019. So this site is safesupportivelearning.ed.gov. So that is where I'm getting this from. And then pardon me while I advance this a little bit to get to what I am, maybe, come on. Okay, so out of school and exclusionary discipline. So things like suspensions, expulsions, restraint and seclusion, and alternative placements. So really this is just saying why, what can we suspend or expel kids from school? And of course they have the, normal drug use, drug dealing, robbery, extortion, assault, battery, that kind of fun stuff. Bullying, cyberbullying, sexual cyberbullying, the things that we absolutely expect to find in our schools today, right? Unfortunately, they have to write things for this. But what I wanted to focus on was this one right here. Oops, well, we'll just highlight a little extra. So K and then number 1 and 2, disrupted school activities or otherwise willfully defied and valid, oh my goodness, hold on. Disrupted school activities or otherwise willfully defied the valid authority of supervisors, teachers, administrators, school officials, or other school personnel engaged in the performance of their duties. Okay, so disrupted school activities or defied authority, right? So number 2, what is the exception? Well, the exception is a pupil enrolled in kindergarten or any of grades 1 through 3, inclusive, shall not be suspended for any of the acts enumerated in this subdivision, and the subdivision shall not constitute grounds for a pupil enrolled in kindergarten or any of grades 1 through 12, inclusive, to be recommended for expulsion. So what it's saying is that, number 1, because this section is talking about not only suspensions but expulsions as well, they're saying, okay, this part they don't get expelled for. And they are just they're just open to being suspended from school. And then it also excludes kindergartners through 3rd graders. Okay, so kindergarten through 3rd graders can be disruptive or they can defy authority without being suspended. So that's how the law was written, at least based on April of 2019. Okay, so then I'm going to switch over here. And actually let me, oh, thank you, Jose. Jose, so am I. So that's awesome. Where are you, Jose? While I'm bringing this other thing up, I'll just throw that question out at you. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch screens and bring us up a little bit more recent, although April is not that long ago. We have recent developments. Okay, so this is from the LA Times. And actually, let me look at I Bleed American. Hey, how are you? Thank you for coming. Okay, so back in April, we saw that the law said that kids could be suspended from school in the state of California for willful disobedience or defiance, I should say, and disrupting school activities. All right, so this is, when is this? This is September. I know this is September 10th from LA, the LA Times. California schools will no longer be able to suspend students in elementary and middle school for disrupting school activities or willfully defying the authority of teachers or administrators, ending a practice that many say is counterproductive and unfairly applied to Black students. Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation late Monday ending suspensions in all public and charter schools for willful defiance in grades 4 through 5 and banning them in grades 6 through 8 for 5 years. So such suspensions were already banned for grades K through 3, which is what we already saw. The broader ban comes in response, in part, to criticism that the willful defiance category of suspensions was a too broad and arbitrary catch-all for any behavior that a teacher finds objectionable, such as repeatedly tapping feet on the floor, refusing to remove a hat, or failing to wear a school uniform. Okay, so I will stop there for a minute because I do homeschool my kids. But once a week we school with a group of people, and I lead a class this year. It's of 14, 15, 16-year-olds. So it's pretty much 9th grade, and I am highly sensitive to just the random noises, like or the click, 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 click. And so they know, because now they've had me for 2 years. I moved up with them last year. I'll just look at them. Actually, I don't even have to look at them. I'll just be like, click, 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 and they'll stop immediately. But here's the deal. I work with kids a lot, my own all the time, and other kids as well in a classroom setting. And the reality is, this can sound like, oh, these teachers are just, writing these kids up, or, they're getting suspended or whatever because they're tapping their feet on the floor. Well, big deal. Here's the thing. Yeah, that might not be a big deal, but on the other hand, it may be one of those situations where the kids are doing it purposefully to be disruptive. So this, to me, could go either way. I'm not willing to completely write this off, because kids will find, if they want to be disruptive, if they want to be defiant, they'll find ways to do that. Okay, so I'll stop for a second. All California cares about is that the kid shows up so they can get paid by the government. Money does not even go back into the schools anymore here. Yes, Pete, that's absolutely the case. It's all about numbers of bodies in the seats, and they get money. So we're going to get into that a little bit more too. All right, so back to the article. Ending willful defiance suspensions will keep kids in school where they belong and where teachers and counselors can help them thrive. State Senator Nancy Skinner, the bill's author, said in a statement. All right, under the legislation, school authorities could still remove disruptive kids from class, but would be encouraged to use alternative disciplinary practices. Okay, so to me, when I read this, I thought, oh, well, so it's not as, black and white, as cut and dry, whatever, as it seems, right? Maybe it's not as severe. But as you keep reading, it says, such as restorative justice or positive behavior support, which, you know what that means? That means, here, sit down and write an action plan that will describe the steps of how you're not going to choke little Johnny next time that you're upset. I'm sorry. No, we need a little bit more than an action plan. I've actually seen that happen before. So let me see. Okay, students could still be suspended for more serious actions such as physical violence, theft, or use of drugs. Okay, so here's the thing. What they're talking about as far as being disruptive and defying authority, those really aren't physical violence, theft or use of drugs. Yes, okay, those could also fall into being disruptive. I mean, a fight in the hall is going to be disruptive, but that's not really what this is addressing. And so I really want to take this paragraph and be like, edit it out, because it really has nothing to do with what is actually happening. But if you are looking for those, the bent in an article, these are the kinds of things, right? They want to throw things out in left field and kind of get your attention here. So for me, I just throw that out because really that has nothing to do with what they're actually talking about. The statewide action follows bans that have been put in place in at least 5 school districts throughout the state in recent years. Okay, skip down to the next paragraph. Research has shown that suspensions and accompanying loss of instructional time disproportionately affect students of color, particularly African Americans. Okay, and they did say that in the first paragraph as well. So this is where we really get into it, right? In 2017 and 2018, African American student suspensions represented 17% of total suspensions across the state, even though African American students made up less than 6% of total students in the state, according to the California Department of Education data. Okay, so one of the points, and I will absolutely I Bleed American, if you're still there, I think Joe Mama accidentally pushed a button on you. Okay, so let me see. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you're still there. If you're still there, go ahead and put in a comment, so because we should be able to see you. So yes, Robert Nozawa, click a pen. No worries, Joe. I totally get it. Click a pen and you can get to me, Robert. Okay, so I will attribute this next point also to Jericho Green, where he kind of went off and said, okay, well, what are the other possibilities for this? What are the other reasons for this situation? Well, what about the number of African American students that are being raised by single parents or in single parent homes, right? Because if you have less structure at home, you are more likely to be less structure at school, if that makes sense. So I wanted to bring some of that information in as well. Oh, I can get rid of this comment. Hang on a second. Okay, we'll get back to that a little bit later. Okay, so so I wanted to look up the data on this. This is from datacenter.kidscount.org. Okay, children in single parent families by race in the United States. And there are a lot of different studies out there. There's a lot of different data out there. Excuse me. So this number may not be perfect. And I ran into some other data that looked at numbers of people or of kids born to unmarried. So that doesn't necessarily, those aren't necessarily the same thing, right? Because they can be cohabitating. And so there are still two parents in the home, but they're not married. This is for single parent families. So percentage-wise, and this is 2017, percentage-wise, 54% American Indian, which I almost took that one out of here. You can actually, check or uncheck these boxes for which races you want to focus on. Okay, Joe Mama has asked me before to take her wrench away. I love you, Joe. Yes, I am glad you stuck around as well. I bleed American. And hello, Red Pill. I'm so glad you're on. It is going well. We are talking about craziness in the schools of California. So I thought about taking this stat out simply because we're talking about California right now. And the that article is specifically talking about African American, but if you're talking about minorities in California, you're going to be looking at African American, you're going to be looking at Hispanic or Latino, and potentially Asian and Pacific Islander as more prominent minorities than American Indian. But I left it in just to make sure I was being fully honest with all of my material. So 54% American Indian, 15% Asian and Pacific Islander. Black or African American jumps up to 65%. And as you can see, according to this data, it's kind of gone between 65 and 67% in the last 10 years. Other data shows it as high as 75%. So again, depends on the data you pull from. But I wanted to get one that was more in the median range. Hispanic or Latino, 41%. So if we come down, and then non-Hispanic white, 24%, total is 34%. So if you're looking at what this article talked about as far as African American population of kids, then you're looking at almost half or almost double of the amount of Black or African American kids who are raised in, or at least are living in, single family homes in comparison to the total amount. So that's a pretty significant factor. And I'm not saying that they don't have issues with, teachers who are just frustrated. Maybe they do, and maybe they need to work on that. But I don't think that's one of those things that we need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, if that makes sense. Because now you've just written a blank check for these kids to be disruptive and to defy authority at school, and they don't care. Nothing's going to happen to them, so why does it matter? And I'd love to say that, this was through third grade, right? Okay, so a little bit of that is they're really young. But on the other hand, in today's world, you can get some pretty vicious kindergarten through third graders. I hate to say that because, to me, they're still babies. So to see that bothers me. But we're talking about now really through middle school, or I don't know what they call it down there, junior high, middle school, is really what we're talking about. And when I saw that they were expanding it to those middle school grades, I thought, wow, because middle schoolers can be ultra vicious. Okay, it's like the worst of the worst. um, they're like the is it MS-13? Like the MS-13 of education. I'm sorry, that's horrible. Okay, let me catch up on comments really quick. Hey, AC guy, thank you. Thank you for coming. That red pill marine is still trying to get KK's puppy. Okay, so so I really just wanted to bring that and have a discussion about that, because once you start taking away consequences, what is that going to do? What is that going to create? What are the teachers in high school going to get if the consequences have been taken away when the kids were, third, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade? Okay, so hold on. My comments are not working on this. Give me just a second. Oh, there we go. It's finally starting to catch up. Okay, so Red Pill says, my daughter-in-law is a fourth grade teacher, and she says she can't stand those destructive little poops. Well, and that's the thing, is that just in general in society, right? And we've talked about this before, personal responsibility is no longer something that we care. Oh, Peanut, hi, how are you? It's nice to have you on. Um, in society, it's amazing what kids get away with, right? It's amazing. And I guess to me, what surprises me is what they feel like they can get away with. And ultimately, it's because they can. But, when I was a kid, if there was an adult, you were respectful. You spoke well to them. You didn't flip them off. You didn't moon them. You didn't, I mean, I guess some people might have, but you didn't talk back to them. And you just knew not to do that. Now I can be driving down the road, or through the neighborhood or whatever. It's amazing what kids are willing to do. Yeah, so KK said, I work at a high school and those kids get away with everything. So I have an aunt who who was a teacher in the public school system in New Mexico for years. She's actually been, my goodness, it's probably been 20 years since she retired from that. And then she went to a different situation. But for her last few years, she could not wait to get out of there. And so this was 20 years ago. And Peanut, you're absolutely right. It is dysfunctional by design. You are 100% right. And what she was complaining about then, she taught science and PE. So she taught science and PE to middle school and high school aged. And she started getting frustrated because the administration would not let her fail, or would not let the teachers fail their students. This was 20 years ago. We thought it was crazy 20 years ago, but I say this a lot, right? It's about that next step. It's about that next step. And so yeah, she couldn't fail students, even if they were fail worthy, right? Red Pill says, my classroom would be run like a freaking boot camp. And you know what? My house sometimes is. I mean, not always, right? But certainly, um, there are definitely times for that. If there are things to be done, let's go. I love to have fun, so when I'm with my class on that one day a week, I and we're together for 6 hours. So when I say that it's one day a week, it is all day long with this same group of kids. And you know what? I love to have fun. I like to joke with them. I like to, chat, and the way we educate is very discussion based anyway. So there's a lot of chatter going on. There's a lot of talking and um, discourse. But there's also time to get down and get to business. And so I don't. I only let things go so far. And then I threaten to defenestrate them. So, okay. So any other questions on that or any other thoughts on that? Again, I found out about that information from Jericho Green. And so for those who weren't on here earlier, I really like Jericho Green, but fair warning, he curses like a sailor. So Red Pill, I know that you'd love him. Okay. But some people, need to hear that. All right. Parents enable their children to act out and try to manipulate teachers via principals or higher up. Okay, so Peanut, that's a good point. And that is a shift that started to happen. So there's it's very interesting. This is a little bit of did the chicken or the egg come first, right? Because who's at fault? Where does the responsibility lie? Hello, Great Informer. Nice to have you. Because for me, I believe that my children are my responsibility, right? And Red Pill. And I kind of get offended if somebody wants to step in on that and they want to take over where I believe it's my role. Then you have the other side of people, or the other side of the argument, where people believe, well, the schools have to do X, Y, and Z because parents aren't doing it any longer. I think that's a real slippery slope. I think a big part of that is that continued reliance on government, right? And so parents didn't start releasing that responsibility over their students or over their kids until they started releasing it to government, right? So government was there to take and to encourage, I think, in my opinion, to encourage more ownership over the students, and parents kind of let them. So I'm gonna bounce back up here because I'm missing some. Oh, so what I was gonna say is, excuse me, I can remember that shift happening where even when I was a kid, you did not want your parents to be called. And that might have been shifting a little bit then as well, but at least in my home, it didn't shift. If you get in trouble at school, you're going to get in trouble at home as well, right? But there did start to become this shift where parents started reacting in a, my kid is perfect. My kid is an angel, right? My kid couldn't have possibly done what you said that they did. And so instead of parents coming to the school or parents getting that phone call and saying, oh, you just wait till you get home, buddy, right? Instead of that happening, it was more of them arguing with the school administrators and defending their child's actions. And so it became a fight for the school as well. So that's that personal responsibility thing, taking personal responsibility away and not expecting kids um, to abide by or to be responsible for their own actions. It's always somebody else's fault, right? It's always someone else's fault. Red Pill said the teachers would compete on who had the best paddle when I was in school. Let me tell you, the more holes, the more it hurt. I have heard that, yes. And when I was a kid, my dad let us pick out the belt that he was going to spank us with. And we discovered a few things, right? So you didn't want the thinner belts. You didn't want the belts that had the weaving because those were more painful. So yeah, I'm with you with the holes in the paddle approach. Excuse me. Right, and you know what, you can make all sorts of arguments for whether there should still be corporal punishment in schools or not, but we got issues. We've got issues. Parents, I will blame this on parents, because as much as schools and government want to take over or they want to step in, parents need to do their responsibility. It's just that simple. It's your kids are your responsibility, and their education is your responsibility. It's not actually the school's responsibility. It is yours. Now, you may send them to the school to have the school, let's say a public school, right? But you have the option of a public school, a private school, homeschool, charter schools, whatever, right? Montessori, or, just you have that. They're your kids. You're the one who is responsible for their education. Ooh, KK, you're making chicken enchiladas. All right, so Peanut said, I think it started with welfare and the breakup of the nuclear family. Absolutely. And going back to your earlier point, Peanut, that's all by design, right? That's all by design. You look at, we could go into everything, right? You look at abortion, you look at how easy it is to divorce, you look at, just things being deemed acceptable. Excuse me. Out of wedlock pregnancies and stuff like that. And look, I'm not saying that things don't happen, okay? I get that. But there's a difference when you go from a place where things aren't really socially acceptable to a place where not only are they acceptable and not looked down on, but they are full on embraced. And there's almost a power given to those situations. So, yes, with the breakup of families, government and television raised our children. Yeah, absolutely. And part of that, you can also look at the the economic situation, and the idea of two-parent incomes, right? Hey, Jeff B. Okay, hold on. I just saw a comment that made me laugh, but I'm not there yet. What it is that parents have learned to blame teachers. They manipulate. The way to handle it is not make school mandatory and give options. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I homeschool, so I have made the choice. We've made the choice to make sacrifices to make that happen. We don't make a ton of money, but the youngest vehicle that we have is a 2010. And that was purchased because of work need. So everything else is 17 to 22 years old. So, you know, it is what it is. We make choices. Hang on a second. Okay. Okay, so Red Pill says, you're not that much older than me, Mel. I'm not sure that I'm older than you, but this is not the time to discuss that. All right. That way, an angry parent can take their kid to a different school and a principal could kick a kid out. Yeah, and and that's the thing is, I talk to a lot of people about education, about their kids and all that, because not only do I homeschool, but I work with homeschooling families. And the answer used to be, it used to seem like it was, take them to private school, right? The problem is that you have enough kids now who have been expelled from public school, and private school is a parent's only option. So the idea that a private school is going to be insulated from all of this stuff, well, you're just importing. It's almost like Californians moving to Texas and voting that way. So you're bringing in kids who got expelled from their schools. So that's who you're sending your, paying $7,000 to $10,000 a year for kindergarten, to have your kids in school with the kids that got booted from other schools. All right, hang on. Jeff, did I say hello to you? I think I did, because I thought you popped up there, but if I didn't, hello, Jeff. Thank you for coming. Then parents with bad kids would end up at schools with negative prestige. The parents would be embarrassed, and then the teachers would gain power back. You would hope so, but I've lost faith in logical thinking reigning. Because everything is, I mean, okay, for example, and I'm going to throw California under the bus again. California is sitting here with all of these horrible issues, right? With their natural resources, with their schools, with their what is it called down there? I don't know if it's DSHS or if it's CPS down there. With its what's the thing that the one that's obvious? Oh, the homeless problem. Yeah, the big one. Logical thinking says, okay, this is a consistent issue. This is getting worse and worse and worse. What is it that's staying the same? Well, Democratic leadership is staying the same, or at least leftist ideas are staying the same. Leftist socialist ideas are staying the same within the leadership of that state, within the leadership of really the population centers of the state, right? So logic would say, look at that and fix it, right? I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in logical thinking and answers prevailing. Oh yeah, red pill. If they had corporal punishment well, I won't even say in schools. If a teacher used corporal punishment at this point, wow, that would be crazy. I mean, yeah, they'd be yanked out to the street. All right, the parents would not want the scarlet letter of having their kid go to the bad kids school, and they would pressure their kids to behave. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, again, because this goes back to that personal responsibility piece. My kids are going to the bad kids school, and but it's not my kid, right? Yeah, I don't know, Peanut. You probably have, man, I usually think of myself as a pretty optimistic person, but you might have me on that, because on this I'm feeling a little not optimistic on that. Okay, Red Pill, you beat me. All right, just saying. I won't discuss why or how, but yes, you beat me. Yes, hey, battery addiction, thank you for coming. Big things in Virginia, absolutely. And that was another thing I was going to talk about here in a minute. Let me make sure we've gotten through. When parents feel like school is a right and there's no way to kick them out, then they will fight the system. If they have a choice, they can only blame themselves. Yeah, but I don't know that they... Again, this goes back to that idea of personal responsibility and government, allowing and expecting the government to take care of you, including your parenting responsibilities, your kids. I don't know if they want the opportunity to be able to blame themselves. And I will tell you, from a homeschooling perspective, homeschooling is extremely difficult. And there is a lot of pressure and a lot of guilt that can go with it to say, oh, a lot of self-doubt, right? Am I doing the right thing? Are they keeping up with these kids or those kids or whatever? You have a lot of people who are scrutinizing you, and they scrutinize you for everything. They scrutinize you for, oh, your kid didn't know that fact or that thing, right? They scrutinize you for how your kids, really, how they're dressed, how they behave, everything. They get scrutinized, and I get scrutinized as the homeschooling parent. I get scrutinized for all sorts of stuff. So, and which is really funny, because I don't need anyone else's judgment. I'm sitting here judging myself enough, right? I'm sitting here looking at my own kids enough, looking at my own performance enough. I'm hard enough on myself. I don't need anybody else to do that for me. Ooh, hang on. My chat jumped, so I've got to... Oh, my chat really jumped. Hey, hello, History B. I jumped way forward and okay, yes, I will, Peanut. I will invite you in here. Thank you, battery addiction. I appreciate that. Hopefully you were talking about me and not him. All right. Okay, yeah, let me throw a link in here for you. And anyone else who wants to join in to the conversation, you are welcome to join. And then let me keep catching up. Red Pill said, you take your kid to a private school, they come out like a darn brainwashed zombie. So tell me about that. What do you mean by a brainwashed zombie? Okay, Pete, you said, but we have the plaque, so it's all okay. Tell me about that, because I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Hey, Mel.
Tina, how are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just still catching up with the chat. So give me just a second. History B said, "Oh my goodness, schools in California are terrible." Yes, but honestly, I don't know what we could say, except for the sun. I don't know what we could say in California is not terrible. I mean, is that maybe I'm being unfair? Maybe I'm being unfair, and I should be more kind. But you know.
You're right. You're right. I live in California. You're absolutely right, Mel.
Oh, do you live in California?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then I'm catching up on your stuff too. Children from bad homes look at school like a prison, so they fight it. They feel like it's not meant for them, so they will end up flunking out anyway. Okay, that's the other thing. Actually, I forgot to look up the stat, and maybe someone will look it up while you're on here. But I was also going to look up the stat of there was Jericho Green also mentioned as a percentage, and again, I like to confirm all of the stats I share, but a stat about the amount of kids in California schools who are not reading to grade level, and it was up above 70%, if I remember correctly. So, you know, I mean, I guess if you're looking at the California schools, I mean, what are you getting out of them anyway? It would be my question.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, if they have a choice, then more markets would open to fit their needs. Well, I mean, and that's basic economics anyway, right? We're talking about education here, but that's economics that provide or the capitalist system, right? Provide options, let people decide where they want to go, and if your school is losing a ton of money because you're losing students because you suck at educating children, then you're either going to change or you're going to go out of business.
Exactly.
And, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what it is like, just kind of that's pretty much what I'm saying. But like, what would happen is like, let's say for example, you're in a public school, and the parents feel like they have to go to that school, and so whether they deeply think about it or not, that's what the conclusion they come to. So when they have their kid to school and the kid's acting up, they don't want to take responsibility, like say, for the kids. So what they want to do is blame someone, so they blame the teacher or whatever, right?
Right.
And when they don't get their way, what it has to do is about feeling, because they don't want to feel bad as a parent. Deep down they probably know,
Right.
but they don't want to feel bad. So what they do is they want to blame the teacher to try to alleviate that guilt onto somebody else. And then what ends up happening is they end up controlling the situation. So they'll either go to the principal or someone higher up in the district, et cetera, until they get their way. And so,
Oh yeah,
right. And then they'll
just keep asking until you get the answer that you want.
Right. And then there's this added pressure where now you can't get rid of the kid, et cetera. And so it just creates this like prison atmosphere. And then you have the kids who they feel like, well, this school is not my culture, et cetera. And so why are you forcing me to be here? And maybe they probably feel stupid because they can't keep up because they weren't getting that structure they need at home. And so they just keep getting passed on from grade to grade to grade till they ended up eventually either quitting or something anyway. And for the ones that actually so quote unquote succeed, they just end up going to a college where they take remedial classes because they weren't prepared for college. And so the whole thing is just ridiculous. So my point is this: the only way they could fix that partly is they would have to one, they have to be able to have the power to get rid of a kid that's not behaving, et cetera. And right now the system doesn't allow that to happen. So so this is what my solution would be: if they open it up and say, okay, great, then we if you want to bring your kid here, great, but we do not have to have the kid here. So, but we all have a mutual interest in having the kid here because we'll get money, etc. But at the same time, it's not worth the money if the kid is bringing down the school, because we have to now compete with this other school. So there's an incentive for us not to have the kid in there. And then what
Right.
happens? Then what will happen is the parent will be like, "Well, I never, and I'm going to take Johnny out of here then." And then right, and then they're going to take Johnny over to the other school. And then if let's say if Johnny misbehaves at that school, they don't have a need to keep him in there anyway. So eventually, school to school to school, Johnny ends up in the undesired school, and all the other parents know, oh, he goes to that school. And then what would happen is then it wouldn't happen immediately, but eventually over time, then it'd be a stigma attached to being in this school. And then the parents would be like, instead of saying, well, instead of trying to force a teacher and control them, they know they can't do that anymore. So instead of that, they know, you know what, I don't want the stigma, so I'm going to control Johnny. If they don't, he ends up at that school anyway, so it's all good. At least he's not bringing down the other students. And then right?
Well, and I mean, you touch on a really good point right there. Again, we as a society have moved to this place where we are catering to the few, right? And so instead of caring about the quality for everybody, we've got to focus on this one student who is causing issues for everybody. And I mean, I know it's more than one student. And hang on a second, because can you see chat?
No.
Okay. So you're getting some compliments. So hold on a second. I'll let you know. First of all, let me say, did I say hello to History B? I think I might have. Hello, History B. I'm so glad you're here. Yes, she is a public school teacher. And she said, she made a comment about, I might not be able to find it, but going behind enemy lines. Where do you teach, History B? But you know what? And I will say we need teachers who are on the right side, who are thinking right, you know. And I don't know, it's a little bit like missions work. I think to me, it's a little bit like missions work, right? You're going in, and then let's see. She was also saying, she said, "Hi, Peanut." And then let's see, I just saw this. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost in my chat here. History B said they hate homeschooling because it takes powers away from the powers that be. Absolutely.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
And that is one of those things that I am fully aware of, and I know that they want my sounds so horrible, but they do. They want my kids, but they want everybody's kids, honestly, and they want them as young as they can, because indoctrination works best when you get them younger. Hello, Linda. Welcome. I'm glad to see you here. And Duke, I don't know if I said hello to you. I said it in my mind, but hello, Duke. I'm so glad you're here. Hold on. She said, oh, I homeschool 3 high schoolers right now. I'm about to graduate one, which I had at like age 12. Maybe not, but still, we'll just act like I'm that young. You know, 29 plus, right? Okay, yeah, so History B had said she was working undercover to undo the brainwashing. Absolutely. And the money going to education, like everything else that government touches, is misdirected and misused. And that's the thing. And you were talking about, you know, you touched on money as well. And that's the thing, is that I mean, that's kind of the answer, the leftist answer to things, right? Throw money at it. Oh, it's not doing well, you know, give it more money. But it's not being used wisely. And I'm one of those horrible people, right, that when a school levy comes up, you know, at this point, I always say no. And the reason being is because it's not that I don't want schools to have money. It's not that I don't want the kids to have resources. It's that no matter how much money you throw at it, the resources aren't being used well. And so why give more money for them to be misused? I mean, honestly, you know, why do I want to give more money to support programs like drag queen story time in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
Let's refocus. What is school supposed to be about? Can we get them through? Can we get them going into college, like you were saying, not having to take remedial classes? How about that? Why don't we focus on that? And whether they go to college or not, I'm not sold that everybody has to go to college, but certainly you talk to college professors, and that's what they have seen. They are getting all these students who are not prepared for college. They are not ready. They just don't belong there. They cannot write papers. They cannot write sometimes. They can't, their math skills are terrible. Thinking skills, don't even begin to look for those. And I'm sorry, I'm probably coming across very harshly. I don't mean to be. It is, as a whole, our society has gone this way. So, hello, Johnny O. Thank you for coming. Okay, so history said bingo, Peanut. I'm not, this is 7 minutes ago, so I'm not sure what point you made 7 minutes ago, but she said, we need school choice. Lots of good teachers out there working in a crummy system. Gut the Department of Education and end unions for starters.
That's a good idea.
Oh, she called you a smart peanut.
Thank you. She's right, though. She's 100% right about all that stuff with the unions and all that. Yep.
Yeah,
and the money.
agreed.
And that, like, I think sometimes I've seen that where superintendents, they end up like doing crooked things with the money on top. So, or you get this, like with the textbooks that are used in the public schools, some of them are like the worst textbooks ever. But someone's wheels are getting greased to get that textbook in that school, and whatever. Here's the other thing too, is that you have this other thing where everyone gets forced to do a certain thing, like across the board. Like we're all gonna take just complete change to, like, I forget what the thing is, but there's something like the new math or whatever it is that's in some things, right? And then
drawing symbols or pictures,
right, it's ridiculous. And so it's like, and so what they do is they force everything from the top down, and so like everyone, all right, now we're all doing this all at the same time, instead of like saying we should work the other way, where it should work if a teacher is doing something right and they're getting results, then they should allow for other teachers to emulate what's working instead. So that way the whole system works organically, instead of like someone in an office somewhere telling everybody else what they're going to do and what textbook they're going to use, etc.
Right. Well, and kind of to your point, or to our point, or whatever, Jeff was saying he feels he had an academic advantage because he had teachers that cared about what they were doing. And this was, let me go back, because he had said he went to a private school until he started high school. Well, and again, that goes back to, at least with a private school, it is a business. In order to stay in business, they have to have clients that are that are happy with their service. And so if you're sucking it up, if you're not getting results, people are not going to choose to pay that $7 or $10 whatever $1,000 per year
exactly
for that service.
Right. And then the other thing is like, sorry, go ahead, Mill.
Well, I was just going to say, it's interesting because we actually have like quite a large percentage of people on here who have taught in school. Duke Rawl was I believe a history teacher. That's funny. So History B and Duke Rawl, you guys have tons to talk about, I'm sure. In Dallas, if I'm getting that correctly, Duke. And then History B, 5th grade in a school district in a conservative pocket of Pennsylvania. Oh, bye, Robert Nozawa. I know that you'll have to see that later, but love you. Semi-retired. So yes, he's taught high school and junior high history. That is funny. Oh, Linda Horner said, hi, Peanut.
Hey, how's it going?
Unions are the money pit. Duke Rawl said, my degree is in German history. Wow. I sub-teach once in a while. I lived in Germany for about 3 years, but don't ask me history. Yes, History B, I totally get it. And History B, feel free to come on. In fact, I'll put the link back in the chat again. You guys feel free to jump on. Hello, Dominic. Thank you for coming. Okay. I swear I'm not this old, but I kind of am, apparently, because I keep forgetting if I said hello to people. Johnny O, did I say hi to you? Because hello, I see you. Thank you for coming. And Pete the Patriot's still here. Awesome. Okay, so I'm just kind of catching up. History baby. Oh, Linda Horner also taught pre-K for years. Always taught the Pledge of Allegiance and was ablation to pull off prayer. When was this? That would be my question. When was this, and where did you get away with this?
It's funny how they take out prayer, but then they bring in the tranny time or whatever the thing is, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing. You know, we were having a discussion the other night when Great Informer was on, and it was actually beautiful. We had a liberal man come into the chat, and we had great conversation. He was very reasonable and logical thinking, and was asking good questions and respectful. And so we had a great conversation. But something about abortion had come up, and that was the thing that I was saying. Why am I? I'm not allowed to tell you you can't have abortions. You can't do that thing, but you're allowed to make me pay for them. Why is that okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't have prayer there, but we need to make sure that we're teaching, about the Islamic faith. We need to make sure that we're teaching about Kwanzaa. We need to make sure we're teaching about all this stuff, but do not mention, Jesus or God or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very backwards, and we know that, but it's very backwards. Oh, so Linda's saying that she owned a center. Huh. Oh, okay. No wonder you were able to get away with that. That's because boy, we run into that. So okay, I'm sorry. I was just trying to catch up. Man, I am still Success Kid. Okay, Success Kid, hello. Nice to have you back. My liberal friends have found a new nutritious meal to eat. I came to share the secret.
To eat fetuses.
Oh, heavens. Behave yourself, Success Kid. Unfortunately, right? I mean, that's a whole conversation we could come into about fetus cells and stuff like that. But
right. Yeah, there's a whole other can of worms.
Right, exactly. History B said they take out prayer and the golden rule, and now we have all sorts of gimmicks and reward incentives to convince the kids to make good choices. Right. Yeah. And I don't know if you were on History B when I talked about my aunt was a public school teacher for 30 years, 20 years, 30 years, something like that. Anyway, she retired from that, and she in the last probably 5 years, which was 20 years ago, she was frustrated and couldn't wait to get out of there because she was not allowed to flunk students. So she taught science and PE to high school and junior high, and the administration would not let her flunk students. So it's crazy. It's just ridiculous.
So there's no incentive to do well, right?
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, because if you're a smart kid, right, and you realize, well, I'm going to pass this as well as the kids who aren't trying, then why should I try? I'm not special. And then if you're the kid on the bottom, you're like, well, whether I try or not, I'm going to pass anyway. So why should I bother? And it makes everyone mediocre.
Right, absolutely. And so when I was, okay, so I guess I should say about 20 years ago, I worked for a family that had triplet sons. And I've told this story before, so for those of you who have heard this, I apologize. But it was really interesting because when they were in first grade, they were in a situation where the three of them had different standards for their spelling test. So for one of them, he was graded based on all 20 words. For another one of the brothers, I think it was 16 words. Another one of the brothers, it was 12 words. And so each week they'd get the same, because they were all in first grade. They'd get the same spelling list, but each of the brothers had a different standard that they had to meet. And so you have to look at that and go, well, then why try? Because if I just do bad enough for long enough, then they'll just say I have to get 16 right instead of the full 20 right.
Right. I see your point. That's interesting. Super interesting.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, and History B said, nope, I can't flunk any of my students either. I must make many, many, many adaptations till they succeed. Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate one of the benefits I have as a homeschooling parent is the ability to teach to my student, right? It's the ability to say, I'm not looking at, 20 or 30 or in some cases 40 kids I've heard in a public school classroom. And I'm not trying to deal with all of them, get past all of the distractions, get past all of the behavioral issues and all that, just trying to teach to that great a span, right? I mean, I have 3, and I know them better than anybody else on this earth, right? Because I spend more time with them than anybody else, and I love them more than almost anybody else, right? On this earth. So I have the ability to really focus in and go, okay, this student needs more help on something, so then I can address that. But when you're talking about how many of our students in a public school classroom, it's so difficult to give them that kind of attention. And so, changing things up until they become successful, it's not like you can say, okay, well, I'm going to sit here and spend 20 minutes just with this student. You can't do that when you have 15 to 35 or 40 other students.
Absolutely true. Hey, I got a question for you real quick, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, I don't know if you've watched these movies where, like, it's like some teacher goes into an inner city school and it's like stressful and everything else, and they pull off some heroic effort to
lean on me.
Right, exactly. There's a million of them, right?
Right.
And I think it's like this kind of like mental programming that tries to portray things a certain way. But in my mind, though, that's not really a success for the teacher. That is more of showing how bad the system is. Where I think you should be, like, as a teacher, you should be able. Anyone who's a teacher should be able to go into a room, in a normal classroom, and be able to teach the kids without being this Herculean effort. You know what I'm saying? So that tells me how bad the system is, then how it shouldn't require a superhero to go in there and just teach a classroom.
Well, see, that's the thing. They shouldn't be looking at. They shouldn't be dealing with all of the behavioral things and all of the special circumstance kind of things. And I've talked before about how I have noticed, especially working with a lot of parents raising their kids and stuff like that, that things have shifted, right? That it used to be, again, personal responsibility, and you wanted to make sure that your kid was equipped to deal with all of these things that they were going to experience in life. And so if they had somebody who was, calling them names at school, or if they had a situation where they had a friendship that went bad at school, or, things like that, you taught them how to work through those. If you had a student who, had difficulty concentrating, well, you worked with them to say, okay, but this is something that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to go out into this world, and wherever you work, it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to have just quiet time all the time to work in, right? So we've got to work to help you adapt, to help you, to equip you to deal with these different circumstances. And so when we do that, but that has shifted now, where now so many parents are approaching it as, I need everybody else to modify what they're doing so that my student will feel comfortable, or that my student can succeed, because this is the kind of environment that they need to succeed in. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I again goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Though it's by design, though. They say something on the outside. Look, we're really worried about this kid with special needs, how his feelings are, etc. Right? But I don't think that's the real motive behind it. I think that they want students to fail, because I don't think that politicians, etc., are stupid. I think that there's, I mean, I might be a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's something else more nefarious behind the whole thing, where they want a stupid populace because they're easier to control.
Right. And it's easy to be manipulative and say that this is about being compassionate, this is about caring for them, or whatever, when and we were talking about this the other night on the live stream as well, just this idea that it might seem compassionate. A lot of these ideas, the idea of compassionate liberals and these horrible, conservatives, it might seem compassionate to begin with, but if you follow it to the end, it's not compassionate to set a child up for failure. It's compassionate to have them have the little pains in doing the hard work, and in figuring out how to, because I understand that there are different learning disabilities and stuff like that exist as well, but teaching them how to succeed within what they have, that's more compassionate, because you're going to equip them and they are going to do better in life. And I'm not just talking about like money in their pocketbook and things like that. I'm just saying in general in life, they will do better if they have the ability to adapt, if they are equipped to, to be able to learn no matter what the circumstances.
I agree. That's why I'm saying it goes back to specialization of schools, because like what happens if you have a special needs kid, that then there should be a school designed specifically to help that kid out. Or let's say you have like a kid that's like has all these issues at home, and they don't identify with school. They see it as like the man or whatever that's keeping them down, and they don't want to be there. It's not their culture or whatever the thing is, right? And so then they're forced to be here, and they're going to end up flunking out or whatever, or getting into drugs or whatever. Where what they could do is instead a school could pop up to cater to whatever their interests are. Like, for example, this might seem bad, but let's say they're interested in art, for example, which seems like a frivolous activity to some. But if they at least gotten into something that they were actually interested in and felt inspired, and then they would, if they chose to be there instead of being forced to be there, then at least they could have something in their lives that would improve and grow, and where they could become a craftsman or whatever. And they could always go back in later after the fact. There's always avenues for people, but at least that way, you're harnessing a student's energy into the direction they want to go into, what their curiosity level is, rather than forcing them into some mold that's going to end up failing them anyway. And then it's going to bring all the other kids down too in the process.
Okay, so I'm going to agree to a degree with you, and then I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll figure out what's
happen. Okay, but first of all, let me hold for a second, because I do want to mention that Tony Patriot is in the house. Hello, Tony Patriot. and I've mentioned him before, go visit his channel. He's awesome too. So caring, so thoughtful, always looking out for people, but also a patriot and bringing the news stories. Awesome, awesome, awesome guy. The Bill Show is back in the house. Hello, Bill. Thank you for coming. What did you miss? I don't know, a lot. I mean, we're an hour and a half in. So right now what we're talking about is, well, what we started talking about was California schools and how they are taking away the punishment of suspending kids who are disruptive to school activities or defy authority. That it was the case through 3rd grade, and now they're making it through middle school, junior high, whatever you call that. All right, so hang on. Oh goodness. All right. So what I was going to say, and let me. I'm going to try to pull up a document while I'm going to try to pull up a document and carry on a conversation at the same time, which is going to be highly successful, right? So you might have so go ahead and keep talking just so that I can kind of do this, but I don't want to leave that idea of specialization too far.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're gonna like yeah, it's okay to disagree about it if you have. I kind of figure you had points, but on further talking about it though, let's say for example, like, all right, my kid's studying art, he loves art, and now he's like happy to be in school, he's doing really well in school. But I have concerns maybe later when he gets out of done being an artist, he won't be able to make any money doing that, and ergo, etc. But then again, one, maybe he does end up being the next Picasso or whatever, or ends up landing a job as an illustrator for Disney or who knows what, and ended up really happy in life. But for the ones that don't, and they're like, you know what, I feel robbed that I didn't get this other education or whatever, that could let me go through the college system, etc. Well, then there's a lesson learned there, and they'll be like, you know what, maybe Johnny does need to be in the regular school system because of X, Y, and Z, and the results of that. So either way, it corrects itself, because then the parents that have their kid in the art school, there'll be more pressure to put them back in the regular school. And the other thing it comes down to is peer pressure. Because if you look at it like a classroom, I know a teacher, and what they tell me is that like to control the kid, they have to use their own peer pressure against them. Like for example, let's say instead of like, so what happens is the kid who acts out in school, they do that for various reasons. One of them is they want to get the acceptance of their peers. So, and the older they get, the more important that becomes. Where they don't care when they're younger; they more are worried about the acceptance of the teacher, right? But as they get older,
Right.
then they could become more concerned with, I don't give a damn what the teacher says. That's not cool anyway. So what I needed to know is that the people around me look at me like I'm cool, all the other kids in the class or whatever. And so what a teacher will do is use that peer pressure against that person. Maybe this isn't the best example, but like, let's say, well, we were all going to have a reward of extra time to do this at the end of the day, but now we can't do that because we didn't all get along for the day or whatever. And they're like, oh gosh, darn it, I wanted to leave class earlier. And can't Johnny be quiet? And then the peers work against them, and then that's how the teacher can control the classroom, right? And so parents are the same way. So it's like, I don't want to be known to Betty on my block that Johnny goes to the F up school. So, right? So so now I want to get him into the good school, and so that's how. But I have a choice though. I certainly have a choice to take him into the art school or take him to the remedial school or whatever. But I know that there might be a stigma that goes along with that, and so I don't want that stigma. And so that's one of the things that are missing from society, is there's no more stigma attached to these things, and so that's why.
Right. I mean, and I think that I mean, to take that really broadly, that's absolutely the issue that we're we're seeing a lot. There isn't a stigma to so many things. In fact, it's become against the rules for there to be any stigma, because that says judgment, and you're not allowed to judge me, and we have to, accept everything and everybody, right? And that's where so many things are slipping through, because nobody wants to say, oh no, that's not right, because then you get called all the isms and the ists and all that. Okay, so I'm going to read an article. It's from 2011, but it was a really good article, and it has to do with that specialization aspect. So the way, and this is again personal choice, right? So the way I educate my kids, I educate them using the classical model, which really has to do with the skills of learning. So what skills do I need to instill in my kids for them to be able to learn anything, right? Because I only have them for 18, 19, whatever years.
That's smart.
And learning never stops. I'll just say learning never stops.
They're learning how to learn.
Right. And so there is this article in 2011 written by Heather Wilson called "Our Superficial Scholars." It says, for most of the past 20 years, I have served on selection committees for the Rhodes Scholarship. In general, the experience is an annual reminder of the tremendous promise of America's next generation. We interview the best graduates of U.S. universities for one of the most prestigious honors that can be bestowed on young scholars. I have, however, become increasingly concerned in recent years, not about the talent of the applicants, but about the education American universities are providing. Even from America's great liberal arts colleges, transcripts reflect an undergraduate specialization that would have been unthinkably narrow just a generation ago. As a result, hang on, I bounced and I lost my spot. As a result, high-achieving students seem less able to grapple with issues that require them to think across disciplines or reflect on difficult questions about what matters and why. Unlike many graduate fellowships, the Rhodes seeks leaders who will fight the world's fight. They must be more than mere bookworms. We are looking for students who wonder, students who are reading widely, students of passion who are driven to make a difference in the lives of those around them and in the broader world through enlightened and effective leadership. The undergraduate education they are receiving seems less and less suited to that purpose. An outstanding biochemistry major wants to be a doctor and supports the president's health care bill, but doesn't really know why. A student who started a chapter of Global Zero at his university hasn't really thought about whether a world in which great powers have divested themselves of nuclear weapons would be more stable or less so, or whether nuclear deterrence can ever be moral. A young service academy cadet who is likely to be serving in a war zone within the year believes there are things worth dying for, but doesn't seem to have thought much about what is worth killing for. A student who wants to study comparative government doesn't seem to know much about the important features and limitations of America's Constitution. When asked what are the important things for a leader to be able to do, one young applicant described some techniques and personal characteristics to manage a group and get a job done. Nowhere in her answer did she give any hint of understanding that leaders decide what job should be done. Leaders set agendas. I wish I could say that this is a single anomalous group of students, but the trend is unmistakable. Our great universities seem to have redefined what it means to be an exceptional student. They are producing top students who have given very little thought to matters beyond their impressive grasp of an intense area of study. This narrowing has resulted in a curiously unprepared and superficial pre-professionalism. Perhaps our universities have yielded to the pressure of parents who pay high tuition and expect students, above all else, to be prepared for the jobs they will try to secure after graduation. As a parent of two teenagers, I can understand that expectation. Perhaps faculty members are themselves more narrowly specialized because of pressure to publish original work in ever more obscure journals. I detect no lack of seriousness or ambition in these students. They believe they are exceptionally well educated. They have jumped expertly through every hoop put in front of them to be the top of their classes in our country's best universities, and they have been lavishly praised for doing so. They seem so surprised when asked simple, direct questions they have never considered. We are blessed to live in a country that values education. Many of our young people spend 4 years getting very expensive college degrees, but our universities fail them and the nation if they continue to graduate students with expertise in biochemistry, mathematics, or history without teaching them to think of what problems are important and why. Okay, so that might have been a little bit long, I apologize, but it is a good point that when you look at generations, hundreds of years ago even, people had very broad educations, right? First of all, they were taught to read and read everything, right?
Yeah.
And so, and maybe I took this too far, Peanut. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm listening.
It got my mind spinning. But yes, having something there that is going to excite them, like art or whatever. But
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that I can get on board with schools that are just specific to those things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If I retort though?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to go off screen for a minute, but I'm going to listen. So okay, hold on. I'm going to have trouble. Let me get myself off screen first, and then I'll move my table around. But keep talking because I'm listening.
All right, cool. So like, and I could be wrong about this, right or wrong. It just doesn't really matter. But I get your point of view, and you might, I definitely see how like there might be like reasons why one wouldn't want to specialize in something like art per se. But I think there's a little irony though to that article in that the public education, which runs from public school all the way up to like most colleges and universities in the U.S. It basically is a Renaissance education. Renaissance meaning like the way they apply it is meaning it's like you learn a little bit of everything. Like you're learning a little bit of math, and there's all these requirements that people need to study before they go on to like computer science or whatever their major is going to be. Like for example, you have to learn English and reading and writing and some degree of literature, as well as mathematics, algebra, calculus. You have to learn another language if you want to enter it, etc. So it already is kind of learning from a lot of different topics as education is already. So I think what they really mean by that article is what they're trying to say, if I could paraphrase, is what they're saying is to be critical thinkers, and they think that that's what's missing. So that would be a different case. What they mean is, like, in my opinion, is that a lot of the education and the way it's set up, K through college, is rote learning, where you're basically taught a series of facts that you have to memorize and then regurgitate on tests in order to pass the class, so to speak. So I agree with that. But if you think about it, though, most people when they're learning, they learn what they want to learn. Once they get through the college system, then regardless of what they've learned across the board, people tend to focus on what they're interested in, which narrows more and more with time. So
Right.
So eventually we all end up specialized anyway, one. And then number two is that you can only learn one thing really at a time. So let's say, for example, your curiosity is, I use art because I knew that would be like the most negative connotation possible, right?
Well, and
Right.
I'm not trying to bag on art, because I was
Right,
actually
right.
thinking like STEM schools and stuff like that. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
right. So I use art because I knew it would draw that attention. So for the sake of the argument, that'd be like the most frivolous thing other than basket weaving or something that I could bring up, right?
Yes.
Right. Then again, though, basket weaving isn't very far off with like some of the degrees they offer now in colleges, but like, right,
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely, right? We can cultural, I won't even get into it,
right,
but yes, you're right.
right. Let's say someone's like, you know what, I just want my kid to study art or whatever, and if the kid is following what they're curious in with that train of thought that they didn't fit in with the regular curriculum the way it's designed, then they could study the art and they're like, you know what, now I'm done with art for a while. I studied that for a year, and now I want to study, you know, recording or something. You know, I feel like I'm going to be a rap artist or something, so I really want to understand how to make decent recordings. I want to learn how to do mastering, et cetera. And so that just because they specialize in it for a year or less or more doesn't mean that they have to spend their whole life learning that. And that critical thinking and is part of the process. So like people learn what they're interested in. They spend more time on that. If you force someone to study something that they're not interested in, they might begrudgingly do it, but you're not going to get the same result from someone who is naturally motivated to pursue a certain, line of inquiry.
That's true. Um, I mean, that is true, absolutely. And, because I don't even, I want to say but I don't know that it's a but. um, when I read this article, one of the things I thought about, and this was a few years ago when I read this, 2012, um, one of the things that I thought about was this idea, um, look at those that we elect into um, various positions, right? Whether it's the president, whether it's, um, you know, representatives or senators, whatever. Um, if they knew history and economics, right? And yes, law. I mean, we have so many lawyers, right, in the field. But if they knew these various things, right, then it wouldn't. I guess I feel like, to a degree, some of them would make different choices, right? They wouldn't.
I gotcha. What you're saying is this, Bill. You're saying like if they were only smarter or wiser, then they wouldn't be doing this to the education system, correct?
Okay, I'm gonna say yes, but I also know that we can go the way of what you were saying originally. It's all by design anyway.
Right. They do it on purpose. You know what I'm
So
coming from, right?
yeah, yeah. And I tell you what, I've been awake for about a year now. Okay, so not very long, and so I have my moments of still feeling like there's a way to fix things in a normal
Right.
way.
Right. I understand.
so, um, so
Success is funny, by the way.
okay, I was going to say, I need to catch up on chat because
Making me laugh.
because he did mention his peanut saying any of my comments, and I
Right, I
hadn't.
thought it was funny. And he said some other stuff I didn't mention, but I thought it was hilarious.
Okay, well, I haven't been keeping up, Success Kid. I'm going to keep up right now, or catch up right now. Um, oh, the R-rated conservative is or was here. Hello, R-rated conservative. Thank you for coming. Um, and Luciano, I'm going to call you Luciano. Is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correct? I see you all the time. I type your name all the time. I just don't say it all the time. So hello and thank you. No, Luciano, you get
I gotta
no
go.
question.
I gotta bail. Thanks for having me on, though.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for coming on, Peanut. I absolutely love the conversation. So thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was such a great topic. I thought I had to. I feel grateful to be part of it. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, you too. You too. Okay, I will go ahead and post just in case someone else wants to pop in here, but let me catch up with the comments. Did I post that? It's my First Amendment right to scream Allah Akbar at the airport. Yes, Success Kid. Pete the Patriot. I love that. Good luck. I'm on the no-fly list now. That does not surprise me. Linda Horner said, yes, exactly. Learning to learn and think. And that's the thing. and for those who are with me a lot, you hear this all the time, and so I apologize for being repetitive, but that's our problem, is that everything's so based on emotion and not logical thinking, and not truly considering consequences and reactions and things like that. So I'm very big on the learning to think and learning to use logic and learning to think logically. We are in a sad place in education and many other areas. Yeah, the deep state sets agendas, and that is where I, forget sometimes, right? That we're not always dealing with normal people. Preschool years are the same to, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading apparently. Preschool years are the time to help children love to learn. Absolutely, get them off on a good start. I'm not sure what the Amazon camera is, Success Kid. We're noticing your, well, I wasn't, because I was behind, but yes, apparently Peanut got his other device out or something like that. Because so you guys know, when guests are on here using StreamYard, generally, unless they're using another device, they can't see the comments. So I do try to keep up with the comments, just so that I can also keep the guests aware of what is happening. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. Okay, maybe Luciana got more hellos. I'm so sorry, Success Kid. Critical thinking, absolutely missing. Also find something the child enjoys and helping them find literature. Okay, so Success Kid, true confessions apparently from you tonight, or this afternoon, evening. Yeah, I'm thinking not raising kids on naughty novels. How about that? How about that idea? You're obnoxious, Success Kid. Bill said that it doesn't matter when someone awakens, it only matters that they don't hit the snooze. Yes, and I have to keep reminding myself of where we are. Sometimes I forget the actual reality that we are living in. So anyway, I will find my notepad. Wait, sorry, it fell. So feel free, if you guys want to jump on, you are more than welcome. I was just gonna kind of cover this topic, which really turned out to be a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for that. I was just going to mention a couple of other things. This really does go back to, when we take this more generally, where do we stand up, right? Where do we say that's enough? Where do we say stop? Because it really is a, we don't want to get accused of overreacting. We don't want to get accused of fallacious arguments like a slippery slope, or we don't want to get accused of, again, all the is and the isms, and yet not wanting to be accused of those things has made us allow too much. It's made us allow things that needed to be stopped. So, and everything is a, I hate to do the slippery slope thing, but it's that next step, right? So I was thinking of some things today, and earlier we talked about Okay, hold on. What are you saying, Success Kid? The deep state is real and I am normal. Okay. Thank you, Linda Horner. I forget sometimes that we aren't always talking to normal people. Directed a Success Kid about me thinking the deep state is real. Okay. Okay, Success Kid. Well, at this point, maybe I will say that it is directed at you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, you're funny. Okay, so I was, I said earlier, right? I talked about the drag queen story time, right? That is something that started at libraries, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't in the schools to begin with, but now it is in the schools. So, put your feet, put your toes in the water and see what happens. And if no one throws a fit over the fact that we're doing drag queen story time at these public libraries, well, then let's take it to the next step, right? And you can look at things like, and I've mentioned it 100 times, I know, with the vaccination laws, right? The taking away exemptions and all that kind of stuff, requiring vaccinations, etc. Whether you agree with, vaccinating or not, that's not really the point in this. It's what our freedoms are. So you've got New York, you've got California, you've got Washington and Oregon, who all have done things at various levels of regarding the vaccination issue. You've got you have even free speech. I have a video that I did about free speech. I think it was a live, where places like New York, New York had had come out with not allowing. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted by your comments. I'm going to stop looking at them for a moment so that I stay focused. But you keep getting. Sorry, New York had come out with a ban on using the terminology illegal alien, right? Now, that was within certain circumstances, housing, including hotels. It was with, police, things like that. But, that's a step. Well, then you have Massachusetts that was proposing a bill to ban calling someone the B word, right? And that was for everybody. That wasn't just, from a person of authority or anything like that. So you have freedom of speech that's under attack. You've got the gun laws. You look at the Second Amendment, right? In Virginia, we have a huge issue happening right now in Virginia. And what happens there is going to set the stage for other states. Now, whatever that might be, and I gave it to Pete the Patriot earlier for making me think of things in different ways as well. How that should be approached, at least. We have different ideas on, or different people within our movement have different ideas about, but something needs to be done, right? We cannot allow our Second Amendment rights to be taken away. And Virginia is step one. So we cannot allow the fear of being accused of overreacting to stop us and to and to make us allow for bad things to happen. Okay, I'm going to go back to your comments because because I keep getting distracted by them. Our local police are scheduling an active shooter drill at the public library on January 23rd. Huh. That is one thing that I will say. I don't know if you're noticing it. Hey, Brian Griffin. I don't know if you're noticing it, but boy, shootings are all over the news constantly now. Like literally every day, there are shootings on the news. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute to just call out everybody. Please click on everybody's name in the chat. Not all at once, obviously. Click on them, go visit their channel. We have some people on here who are content creators, and they rock. They're awesome. I'm a little afraid to start mentioning people because I'm a little afraid that I will miss people. And so I'll do it anyway. And you guys, please mention if you're a content creator and I just missed it. Tony Patriot and the Bill Show. And I know that, I don't know if Pete the Patriot is on still, because I saw a notification that his show, usually he gives a 30-minute warning. So that his show is coming on in a bit. Brian Griffin has some content as well, if I remember correctly. Duke Rawl. I once misunderstood Duke Rawl to say that he was gambling with his wife, like gambling his wife. Yeah, my misunderstanding. Anyway, Linda, I don't remember. Do you have content? I don't remember. So please mention if you do, because I don't remember. The R-rated conservative who was on here is a content creator. Oh, now I'm trying to go through all of the people in my mind of who was on here, and I can't remember even everybody who was on here. That goes back to that age thing, Red Pill. I know, Duke. I'm trying. Okay. Drag queen story time moving to a Dairy Queen. Don't like it? Don't be a drama queen. That's funny, Success Kid. You and Great Informer should spend some time together. Right. We slept and allowed too much. Now we are trying to not sound preachy, maybe. However, I think we're definitely at the breaking point and need to speak out. Absolutely. Absolutely. And for those who have not seen I always push it, but it's because I'm so passionate about it. For those who have not seen my my series on the systematic normalization of pedophilia, go check it out. It's 7 parts long, and I think it's just under 2 hours in total. But yeah, we have to say no. We have to stop because things just keep advancing, and we've allowed it. I just got blamed for hypnotizing you and making you forget your lines. If only I had a script. Although, yes, I was reading off of the teleprompter earlier. I keep getting distracted by those Christmas lights behind you. Does it spell something out? No, it doesn't. Or no, they don't. Oh, which way do I go here? So they are just kind of looped like that. That was my little bit of Christmas. Well, I had a little bit more Christmas cheer in here for when my parents were staying in the room. Are they flashing light chasing? No, they're just plain old regular ones. I actually should have them on because at least that would still be a little bit of Christmas cheer. That is our Stranger Things theme at Duke Rawl. The lights light up, and that's how we communicate to our liberal friends at the solar power plants. Each light is a different letter. My word. You're a nut. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Y'all are funny. Are you a content creator? I did not. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm trying to remember your other name. Whose flag? That was my father-in-law's. He served in the Navy. Yes. Okay. For a minute there, I thought, was it the Marines? No. It was definitely the Navy. And that is the flag that we got when he passed. It was, beautiful service with the military representing, and love that. Hey, Kelly Stoner, how are you? Oh, Kelly Stoner, oh, I wish you had been on earlier. You are I have talked about you. I just love the fact that you were on the other night and having such great conversation with us. Everybody say hello to Kelly Stoner, because he is the liberal that I was talking about. I'm sorry, Kelly, if I'm putting you on the spot here, but he's awesome. He just is. Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead. Brian Griffin, school shooters. This is not what I was laughing about. Okay, school shooters need to know this. The king will answer and say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it to me. Absolutely. And again, we're talking about consequences. It's not just immediate consequences. There are long-term and eternal consequences. Okay. Success Kid says he's not a nut. Okay. The Bill Show. I have the same when my grandpa passed away. He was World War II Navy in the South Pacific. I would be curious if sometime you guys would be interested in watching some leftist media and having a debate. You know what, Kelly? I am actually going to be losing. No, I'm going to be ending the stream soon. But if you would contact me, I would love to schedule a time where you can actually come on and we can have discussion where your wife is sleeping, and that's a no-no. So let me I'll put my email in chat here. And if you feel comfortable doing that, feel free to email me and we can set up a time, because I think that would be awesome. I'd love to chat with you. This is leftist media. Mel Monty is not agreeing with me about the Christmas lights, so she is now left-leaning. Send me those videos too, Kelly, and I'll look at them. Is it peanut butter and jelly time yet? Oh my goodness. Shrinking the right. Oh no. Okay. So, hey, and Linda, if you would be interested in hopping on, I know that sometimes people don't want to hop on because a lot of times I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going live because I'm in my jammies, and that's not appropriate. But if we can schedule something and, people would feel more comfortable because it's scheduled and they know they're going to go on, let me know. I put my email in the chat, so feel free to email me and we can definitely set stuff up, because that'd be great. I'd love to have a panel on. We had a great panel the other night when Callie was on. He wasn't able to be in the panel because of his sleeping wife would push him out of a window. I'm just saying that. He didn't say that. I'm saying that. Okay. Okay, so I started the show with music from Red. Oh no, it was Red Pill music, but it's from Severe, the real Severe Anon. Okay, so I'm actually going to end the stream with that as well. I thank you for coming. But this guy, oh, hold on, let me get this guy makes music that usually, I mean, is not the kind of music that I would normally listen to, but he does it for the movement, and they've got great messages. So let me find the other one that I wanted to play. Oh, and this one actually, this one is not just him. It has Educating Liberals. If you guys know who he is, Dylan, he's pretty awesome. And Jason the Gentile is on here. Okay, I thought there was a fourth person on here, but that must be another song. So this song is called Venezuela, and he said this is about socialism and how it ruined Venezuela, which was the richest country in South America. Okay, so let me shut down a couple of things because now I've got the circle of death going here. All right, and then I'm going to share my, oh goodness. I don't know what y'all are talking about, but I'm a little scared with what I just saw. Luckily, it's the one floor. That's called defenestration, by the way. It's the act of throwing someone or something out the window. Thank you, Bill. Love you. It's all about where you put your walls. Don't kiss me ever. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I am going to play this this music, and again, this is from The Real Severe. That's his YouTube channel, The Real Severe, and he is Severe Anon. So you can look up Severe Anon on Twitter if you do Twitter. So, okay, I just want to make sure that there was music. Okay, so I know a lot of people are going to leave during this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. All the people that came. Check out Pete the Patriot after you get off of here, because I know his stream was coming on, and we might be a little bit late, but he is awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all, and check out Severe Anon as well, and all of the creators in the chat. Oops. Oh, no. Okay, hold on. Okay, y'all are not hearing sound? Bye, Duke. I will be there shortly. You guys are not hearing sound? I mean, you weren't hearing the song? Okay, I'll keep trying. Okay, I totally messed that up. Did you guys hear it after, like at the last part? Were you able to hear it? Were you guys able to hear it at the end? Because I may have forgotten that I need to mute myself, my computer, in order to or turn my sound off. If I turn my sound off, then I think it works for you guys. Let's try it. Okay. Okay, sorry guys. I tried, but I just made a mess of that. So I will drop the link and then I will let you guys go. Success Kid and Callie's donor. My goodness, you two. All right, again, thank you so much. I am headed over to Pete the Patriots, so feel free to join over there. He is awesome, and I appreciate you all for coming. Thank you. Bye. Oh, Success Kid, stop that.